No, I think it's very essential because on one of those days on our program, I'm sure that recently too, we've also had cause to use the international airport, where we did find that, you know, even though, yes, some of the corral cells have been put in place, some of them, you know, only one works at a time. Sometimes it's working so slow. Some other times you can be at the airport after you've landed for another 2 hours, 3 hours trying to claim baggage. And people say that, you know, yes, much as when you're going, it looks like it's a lot more efficient. When you're coming back, you seem to face a nightmare.
Well, the issue of the carousels, people have mentioned it a couple of times. The point is that what has happened to the airports is that in remodeling the airports, especially the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, a lot of the expansion of capacity has occurred. Therefore, there's a need for expansion of infrastructure, this time not the physical space. So even if you have 2 carousels being used now, actually there is need for more than 2. So, but the physical space does not allow you to install more than 2 of those. So invariably, what you're going to have is some kind of bottlenecks coming out of the expansion. That is one aspect. The second aspect of it is that the airport remodeling provided us an opportunity because looking at the nature of our airport, looking at the scope of work going on at the airport, it provided us an opportunity to expand capacity. But it also provided a problem because the airport is already built. Most of the remodeling that's happened around the world, like Terminal 3 and Terminal 2, they actually demolished the airport and rebuilt it. But because you are dealing with an already existing structure, there is limits to how much you can maneuver in terms of the facilitation of the movement. So what we are doing now is, first of all, we conducted a study to figure out what are the causes of the delay, where the bottlenecks are. Unfortunately, the data does not support what many people say in terms of the number of minutes or hours they have for delays. And I'll give you an instance. If you land in Heathrow Terminal 5 and land in Terminal C, the journey from Terminal C to Terminal A to go to immigration takes you nothing less than about 30 minutes to get. Before you get past immigration, you must have spent 30 to 45 minutes, at which time your luggages are out. But in Lagos, from the time you enter the D finger and the time you get to the immigration point, it's less than 10 minutes. So the time it takes for your cargo to come creates an impression that the timing in Nigeria is actually out of sync with others. But actually, most airports in the world are very big, that by the time you enter the train, you go under the Terminal 5, you come to the point of immigration and go out, you've spent about 40 minutes.
Yeah, some people will not agree with you in the sense that, yes, all of this have been put into consideration. There are times when it is faster. There are times when you will say that it's a miracle.
If you land at the off-peak time in any airport, you're likely going to get faster service. If you land at 7, which is the time most of the international airlines come into Nigeria, then you have everybody at the airport at the same time. It's like going to the Third Mainland Bridge. If you go at this time to the Third Mainland Bridge, you're not going to expect yourself to pass the Third Mainland Bridge in less than 45 minutes to 1 hour to get to the island. If you come by 12, you're going to go through a breeze. So there are those challenges, but that doesn't negate the fact that in the building the new terminals that are coming up, which is the foresight that the government will establish to build that new terminal. The new terminal is taking into consideration all the challenges we have in the existing terminal.
Because that's where I wanted to go.
So it will resolve that problem in the existing terminal. It will give us more faster through times. The carousels, everything that is there is brought to modern standards, to new system. The Murtala Mohammed Airport is about 40 years old almost. So most of the things are going to see in the new terminals. And maybe when we finish the new terminals, we will then have time to do some more work that will not be destructive of passenger movement at this time. But don't forget, the remodeling that was going side by side with making sure that the airport keeps working. So that has kind of delayed issues at the airport.
Because are you running out of space? Because a situation whereby we still don't have a bigger space so that you know that this airline A has arrived and this is the place you go to get your baggage for airline A and airline B, the way we have seen in other parts of the world. We still haven't been able to get all of that. Signs that will show you where to go to for this particular aircraft to pick up your baggage. we still haven't been able to see that in our international airports. So it's just word of mouth. You ask questions, or everyone comes upon a particular place and say, this is where our baggage will be collected. So are you thinking in that direction when you talk about expansion, getting all of this?
Of course. Like she said, there are 2 carousels at the 2 ends of the airport and a 3rd one. So the signage is important to tell people where to head to. But most times, if you land from either of the fingers, that luggage is going to come out from the side you landed from. But don't forget that the processing of this luggage before it comes out to you comes from a single pool. So it's not like it has multiple pools for it to go through, because it goes through the same, the same is like feeding something through a gate. It goes through the same gate. So it needs to be faster. It needs to be more modern. It needs to be technologically driven, because it needs to be able to read the tags at on the boxes and know that this one is, for this airline or that airline, and push it to the right places. So these are the upgrades that are happening in the new terminal.
And sorry, Newt, really, because it's still in the line of infrastructure. And so many questions already coming in for you. They want to know, why is it that till now, until just recently, that the rains have stopped in some parts of the country, people still get their luggage through the rains to a place with some tarpaulin, and specifically they're mentioning the Port Harcourt Airport. But why is it that the Port Harcourt Airport, I think construction work has stopped in the Port Harcourt Airport for a long time till this moment?
Port Harcourt Airport has a major issue. The issue is that the work profile, the contract that was awarded, the work that the contractor met was much more than what was measured, what he was supposed to do. Now, so we need to revise those estimates, and but the estimates that needs to be revised were quite much higher than the point that can go through a variation. So we're going almost through a revised estimates for the contracts, and once that is approved by the Bureau for Public Procurement, we'll have the new revised estimates, and the contractor will be fully back on site.
They're very slow on that, Minister.
Yes,
I'm sure you agree. They're very slow.
But because if you alter a contract today without going through that process, everybody is going to shout, something has gone wrong here. Because the question will be, why did you not envisage all this? But you never can know everything until you go into a building. So there are substantial issues in the Port Harcourt Airport remodeling, which we're sorting out.
Now, I was going to ask you about the Port Harcourt Airport, but thank God Sulai brought it up.
Well, we're not done with that.
We're not.
So you have to stay on that.
When you say you'll be reviewing or revising the contract terms, are you also looking at other airports? Because not only the Port Harcourt Airport that has been left uncompleted, are you looking at revising other terms for other airports? And what's the duration you're looking at? How long would it take before these airports come out?
Give me examples of airports that are
Enugu, for instance, is not completely done. There are still parts of it that are yet to be done. So let's use Enugu, for instance. Are you also rewriting the terms and all of that?
Enugu will be like 10% to finish, so it must be some rounding up, paying back the either remaining bills, and the contractors putting back, whatever they have.
What about the Calabar Airport?
Mostly done. Same thing with Calabar. Where we have issues is Kaduna, we have issues in Jos, we have issues in Yola Airport, and those are being looked into seriously.
In terms of revising?
Revising and changing design sometimes, and
Okay, the aviation industry in Nigeria has had its issues back and forth and all of that. There are issues about merger of agencies in the aviation sector and the implications it will have on the industry. So what are your plans?
Well, the issue of the mergers, I think, has been resolved in the sense that we've made it clear that you cannot merge the regulators with the service providers. So government, I think, has agreed that NCAA remains the regulator of the industry. The NCAA is a regulator. So the FAN, the Airport Authority, the NAMA, the NIMET, the NCAT in charge of the trainings, and the AIB are the ones that are like service providers. And by the FAA category, by the ICAO standards, the NCAA is supposed to be an independent regulator. So I think government has agreed in principle that they will remain an independent regulator while the service provider, because you can get anybody to run the services, but government must perform its job as the regulator of the industry. So I think that issue has been resolved in allowing the regulator to remain independent of service providers.